Un escritor juega con las palabras, pero juega en serio, juega con la medida en que tiene a su disposición las posibilidades interminables e infinitas de un idioma, decía Julio Cortazar. Uno de los escritores más innovadores de su tiempo, representante del boom latinoamericano, pero también uno de los más prolíficos en la lengua castellana. Lo recordamos hoy, como siempre, a propósito de haberse conmemorado el centenario de su nacimiento desde el Museo de Bellas Artes, que le rinde un homenaje especial. Antes de comenzar a profundizar en los aspectos que definieron su vida y obra, los invito a echar un vistazo por el Cortazar íntimo, por el escritor y el hombre.
Cortazar was born and he died in Europe, but he lived practically all his life in Argentina. After his exile, he lived between Italy, Spain, Switzerland, and Paris. He established himself in the City of Lights in 1951. The Parisian atmosphere was to become the main inspiration for the works he wrote there. He died there in 1984, shortly after being widowed by his second wife, the American writer Carol Dunlop. By the 1960s, Julio Cortazar was one of the leading names in the boom of Spanish and Latin American literature, along with the Colombian writer Gabriel Garcia Marquez, the Mexican writers Juan Rulfo and Carlos Fuentes, Jorge Luis Borges, and others. In 1973, he published Rayuela, his seminal work and one of the classics of literature in Spanish. He waves as he broke with temporal linearity, which was characteristic of the writers of the era. It is a book that is many books, but above all, two.
A mí se me ocurrió, y sé muy bien que era una cosa difícil, realmente muy difícil, intentar escribir un libro en donde el lector, en vez de leer la novela así consecutivamente, tuviera en primer lugar diferentes opciones, lo cual lo situaba ya casi en un pie de igualdad con el autor, porque el autor también había tomado diferentes opciones al escribir el libro.
Cortazar alternated an unmistakable literary style with political activism. He expressed solidarity with popular struggles and was very close to the leftist movements in Latin America, particularly three countries, Cuba, Chile, and Nicaragua. A life committed to the people's cause and a deep love for the Cuban Revolution and the Sandinista Revolution. Cortazar was characterized by his miscellaneous works and the almanac genre, which features fiction, articles, poetry, and essays, such as the case with Around the Day in 80 Worlds and Cronopios and Farmas. Even when it was thought that his entire body of work was known, an editorial gem surfaced that had remained, until then, unpublished. La Puñalada, El Tanga de la Vuelta, featured drawings by the Dutch artist Pat Andrea. It is a work that generates great expectations and will be published this September.
La música en general y el jazz en particular es una especie de presencia continua, incluso en lo que yo escribo. Tú sabes muy bien que lo he dicho además. Mi trabajo de escritor se da de una manera en donde hay una especie de ritmo que no tiene nada que ver con la rima y con las aliteraciones. No. Es una especie de latido, ¿no? De swing, como dicen los hombres de jazz. Una especie de ritmo que si no está en lo que yo hago, es para mí la prueba de que no sirve y hay que tirarlo y volver.
Julio Cortazar died in 1984, leaving behind a legacy of almost 4,000 books, including the first books he read as a child, literary classics, and all the literature that made him a great writer and intellectual. 10 years after his death, his first wife, Aurora Bernadez, donated this personal library to the Juan March Foundation.
Podemos encontrar alrededor de 400 libros anotados por él, otros libros dedicados por amigos y colegas, otros, la mayor parte firmados por él. Él tenía costumbre de firmar los libros, muchas veces fecharlos y también poner la ciudad en la que los compraba o donde los leía.
Along with these valuable dated and annotated editions, the March Foundation also houses a wide collection of object books as well as the writer's bedside reading, that would later inform his work.
Encontramos en la biblioteca de Julio Cortázar ediciones de Edgar Allan Poe que él leyó de niño, con 9 años, y que aunque le producían terrores nocturnos, como él ha reconocido en algunas entrevistas, sin embargo constituyen para él una gran literatura y le sirvieron para definir las claves del cuento. Y además, como todo el mundo sabe, se convirtió en el gran traductor de Edgar Allan Poe.
The collection also includes classic works such as Homer and Virgil, as well as a fine selection of works by authors from the same period, such as Octavio Paz, Gabriel Garcia Marquez, and Juan Carlos Onetti. The writers kept up a regular correspondence. They exchanged their manuscripts and dedicated their recent publications to each other, as can be seen in the personal archives of the writer. Julio Cortazar once confessed that he'd become hopelessly enamored with Cuba. When he visited this island, it is said that he fascinated the people and was also fascinated. He thought the city was incredible. He stayed there and worked at the Casa de las Americas. He walked around Old Havana and strolled along the Malecón and visited El Gato Tuerto. But most of all, he conversed with friends who remember him to this day.
Él en una carta me dice, me he enamorado definitivamente de Cuba. Y tenía una gran afán de curiosidad, quería conocer el país, estuvo en varios lugares del interior, en varias ciudades, y leyó mucha literatura cubana también, opinó de esa literatura.
Cortazar maintained that Cuba was a constant spiritual presence for him. He would say, "With you, the Cuban people, I bear myself as if I was in front of the sea." It is said that when he spoke on his novel Rayuela at the Casa de las Americas, there were more spectators in the hall than ever before. 3 decades after his death, Julio Cortazar's texts are still taught in schools. Young people look for revolutionary codes in Rayuela, and his short stories are cited as models of the genre. The recent anniversary commemorations have led to a review of his works, which continue to highlight the precision with language and innovation in the structure, rhythm, and form.
Rayuela es una novela que, por mucho que pase el tiempo, no va a caducar. Porque en realidad Rayuela es una historia de amor, la primera parte, y una historia de locura filosófica en la segunda, que es un poco más plumbea. Pero es una novela que está hecha con una agilidad, con una gracia, con un humor, con un alto nivel intelectual que a veces da un poco de miedo, también es cierto. Pero es una novela que yo creo que va a seguir, porque en realidad los personajes de Horacio Oliveira y el personaje de la maga son inolvidables.
Despite the debates that question its validity, every year for the last 3 decades, Rayuela has been one of the best-selling books in Argentina. Cortazar is one of the most widely read authors in digital bookshops such as the Spanish site Leer E, and in the creative writing workshops, he continues to be a role model that attracts new generations of readers.
La gente joven está fascinada con la obra de Cortázar, siempre, es porque Cortázar plantea cuestiones que el ser humano no ha resuelto, las grandes preguntas. Y luego también esa subversión, el hombre subversivo, ¿no?, que se revela contra lo dado, contra lo obvio, ¿no? Él era una persona que se cuestionaba constantemente todo, empezando por el lenguaje.
Rayuela marked a turning point when it was translated into more than 30 languages, asserting the multilingualism of the author. Currently, Cortazar is the most translated Argentinian author, unseating Jorge Luis Borges from the honorary position.